Welcome to the Next Level Sports Podcast, episode number 6, featuring Tanya Sage from the Ray Yoga Center, where today we're going to be talking a little bit about her journey overcoming 23 days in a coma. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Next Level Sports Podcast. Take your game to the next level today by learning mental skills from top-level coaches and professionals.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to episode number 6 of the Next Level Sports Podcast. My guest today is none other than Tanya Sage. And what an amazing story and journey you're going to hear today. The things that she's had to overcome to be in a head-on car crash, to be in a coma for 23 days. She's still legally blind. And to see that this not only didn't hold her back, but she's actually accomplished some amazing feats from this, all the way to, despite the fact of being legally blind, she's a yoga instructor. She has her own studio, and it's just such an inspiring story, an inspiring message from an inspiring person. I really can't wait till you guys to hear this. It's just amazing. And let's get right into it. My interview with Tanya Sage.
So my accident was 11/29/05. It was the Tuesday after Thanksgiving.
Oh. And how did that, what was the, it was an automobile accident?
Yes. So I was a bank courier at the time, and I was doing my early morning route. And what happened, I was on the highway. I was heading, to drop off the stuff that I had picked up. And there was a man on the other side of the highway who was passing a car. It was a 2-lane highway, and he was passing on the right side. And when he went to move in front of the car that he had just passed, he clipped the front of her car, flipped her car, took up the guardrail on his side of the highway, took up the guardrail on my side, and then hit me head on, spun around and hit the car behind me. And I remember physically, not visually, I remember literally getting out of the car and just say, I remember feeling like there was an elephant on my chest, and I couldn't breathe. All the air had gone out of me. And I remember physically getting out of the car and just saying, "Call my husband." And I woke up 23 days later in Yale New Haven Hospital with tubes coming in and out of everywhere. And, I had a double traumatic brain injury, which is called a contra-coup injury, brain injury. So that means that where the initial impact takes place, there's a brain injury. And then the impact is so hard that your brain hits the inside of the opposite side of your skull and causes a second brain injury. So it's like the best way I usually find for people to understand it is like putting a tennis ball in a jar and just shaking it side to side. So that's essentially what a contra-coup brain injury is. So I had the contra-coup brain injury, and then while I was in a coma, I had a stroke. And then also all the arteries in my neck had dissected. So the way I find it easiest to explain that is within the arteries are several layers. And then what happens is when there's an impact or a trauma, the layers dissect. So it's like they splinter into the artery. So it causes blockage. So I lost 90% of the blood flow to my brain, which usually you do not survive. I was very fortunate that they said that the veins that were on the top of my brain, arteries, were really high functioning. So that was bringing the 10% into my brain. So usually whenever I speak with people in the medical field, like just on a regular basis, like as friends or whatever, and they ask what my injuries were, and I tell them that one, the jaws drop, and they're like, "Do you know how lucky you are?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And they're like, "No, do you really know?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I really do know. But thank you for reminding me. That's always good." But So for me to just be walking, talking, functioning relatively normally is kind of miraculous. So it's just interesting, how that all happened. So I spent 6 weeks in Yale ICU, tubes coming and going everywhere. And then I had moved on to Gaylord Rehab Hospital in Wallingford, and I spent a month there learning to walk again, to move. The whole left side of my body was completely paralyzed. My vision was very bad. I'm still legally blind to this day. So that was essentially the accident and the injuries. There were other various bodily injuries. So if we start at the top, it was like the brain injury, the stroke, the arteries dissecting in the neck, broken left collarbone, punctured and collapsed left lung. I had some internal bleeding in my spine or in my back. And then I had a couple of cracked libs and a lacerated liver.
Jeez.
So that's the list. That's the list.
We don't need that list any longer.
I know. It was crazy. It was very traumatic to wake up and, just not be able to talk because I had been intubated. So I had a trach in my throat. I couldn't communicate. And then I couldn't see. Like everything, my vision was just so bad. So I couldn't see really. It wasn't like completely black, but everything was completely askew and very fuzzy and grainy. So my husband, I had woken up. It was December 23rd. It was 2 days before Christmas. And when I asked the date and they told me the date, I went, I just was like exasperated. And they were like, "What's wrong?" And I was mouthing the words, "I didn't buy any Christmas presents." And the nurse looked at me and said, "Tanya, I think you're the Christmas present this year." But I was so upset that I'd only bought, I think, 2 Christmas presents. I got my father-in-law loves trains, so I got him like a train pocket watch. And, and I had gotten my husband a little gift too. And those were the only gifts I bought that year. So it was very traumatic though, being told what the injuries were. And I just remember like crying, and I remember pointing my finger on my forefinger on my right hand and pointing, up in the air at my husband and saying, and I just remember mouthing the words, "I'll will myself back." And I made a decision right then and there, and it just came from wherever it came from within me. And I was just determined. I said, "I'll will myself back." And I kind of have. So, I think you have to, you come to this crossroads when something traumatic happens in your life, and you have to make a decision. You have to decide whether to move forward and be happy and live a good life and enjoy what you have, what you can do, and not think about what you can't do, and work towards, getting through your injury, getting through your trauma, whatever it may be. Maybe it's not physical, maybe it's emotional or psychological, but the only way to get through it is to just get through it every day and take one day at a time and just keep moving forward. That's kind of what I did. And it was not easy. It was a terrible struggle. There were days where it was just totally depressing, and I would grab a pillow and yell and scream and cry and punch the pillow with my one good hand. And, it was very traumatizing, to say the least,
Yeah.
Let alone just the injuries, but just the life changes were incredible. Going from being able to do so much to, having to have a recliner chair that lifted me up because I couldn't stand up on my own and I couldn't walk on my own. And, for a long time I couldn't even sit up. I would just fall down to the left because the whole left side of my body was essentially paralyzed.
When you got to the rehab hospital and you started teaching yourself yoga, or they had somebody that taught to you?
No, there was no yoga there. I had never really done yoga.
Okay.
So what ended up happening was after my accident, I went through about 3 years of physical therapy, 2.5 or 3 years. And a friend of ours was doing, my friend Lori was doing a triathlon here in Connecticut out at it was the Pat Griskus Sprint Triathlon at Lake Quaspag in Middlebury. And so I said, "Oh, Lori, can we come and cheer you on?" And she was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So we went out there, and it was like this palpable energy that I could feel there. And it was just to see all these people like crossing swimming out in the lake and coming back and jumping on their bicycles and taking off and coming back on their bikes and then going out on the 5K. And I was like, oh my God, I could just feel this energy there. it reminded me of like Brigadoon rising from the mist, every 150 years. And I had a feeling of Brigadoon there. And it was so moving to see all these people crossing the finish line. And I was just so excited when my friend crossed. And I said, Lori, I'm like, I want to do this next year. I said, will you ride the bike for me? And she was like, absolutely. So I started training. I started swimming daily. I had been in the pool at our local Y, and I couldn't even swim a straight line when I first got in because my left side was still so weak. So I would just stand at the edge of the wall, and I would just do exercises, and I kept just practicing. And then eventually I would swim halfway across the pool and then turn around and swim back because I was afraid I'd drown if I went through the deep end. And then one day I was there and I said, I'm going for it. So I swam all the way across to the deep end, and there was no looking back after that. And then I was doing about 1.25 miles a day in the pool. I built up to that like 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. And then my husband and I started going out and walking the 5K route in Middlebury so that we would know what it was like. And, I was walking with my cane, and then I had a Bonanza L300 unit that I wore. It was an electronic cuff that went on just below my knee, and it would energize, or I guess I'm not sure the right word I'm looking for, but it would stimulate the nerve in the muscle in my leg to lift my foot. I had a little bit of a drop foot. Due to the paralyzation and the neuro damage. So I used that item for years. So I did the triathlon. It was incredible. I was the last one across the finish line, but to lots of hoots and howls and lots of love coming my way. And it was just really, it was a moving experience for me. And I think maybe for people who were watching too.
Yeah.
So I did it 2 more years after that. And then what happened was, from all the swimming, I'm only a left side breather. So I developed a bulging C6-7 disc. So I kind of segued into yoga after that. And it was just great. And I loved yoga. And I had an opportunity that came up through the Department of Labor to get a scholarship. So I got a federal grant actually to go for yoga teacher training. And within like 8 weeks, I was signed up and enrolled, and here I am.
So from 23 days in a coma to now owning your own yoga studio, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And I have to laugh because it's just like so unreal. And, you never know what's coming around the corner. So, I always said, I love life. I'm happy to still be here. And I just, I want to have fun. Life is here for you to enjoy and experience, to do the best with your body that you can, to treat it well. I mean, we all have our vices. We all have things that we do. Like, we all love to eat our pizza and our popcorn and whatever, and our chocolate. So, but, there's also times where, you do those things, but try not to do them every day, and try to just get some health into your life. And so that's kind of what I started to learn. And I don't think it's ever too late to learn those healthy habits or to make changes.
Yeah. When you were in the process of training for the triathlon, what was kind of going, I mean, you said it was just like, you just had it in your mind that you were going to do it.
Yeah. And it's crazy. I remember like when I would swim, I had, a mantra technically is usually like something that's in the Sanskrit language, and the words are specifically chosen for their sound or vibration within the body. But I called it a mantra back then before I knew what an actual mantra was. And so when I would swim, and my little mantra in my head was, my body is a machine and it does what I tell it to do. My body is a machine and it does what I tell it to do. My body is a machine, it does what I tell it to do. And that's what I would say over and over and over in my head when I swam. And then I would think about having pizza. Pizza used to pop up a lot when I was swimming. I don't know why, but, and I just really enjoyed it. And, that's the mindset that I got into, is my body is a machine and it's going to do what I'm going to tell it to do. I know it's not going to do it like everybody else, but it's going to do what I tell it to do to a certain point that it can do it. And so that's really what I did, was I just, kept focusing on it and just, kept moving forward.
And when you started to go like deeper into, repeating that mantra to yourself, did you find that, like the time just kind of went by faster? Did things slow down for you?
Well, the thing I loved about swimming was it was it's a wonderful exercise, first of all, but it's great because, your head is in the water, so it kind of blocks out a lot of sound. So even though there's a lot of other people swimming in a public pool or a pool like at a YMCA, there's still that kind of escapism of just being in the water. And even though there are people swimming around you or there's an exercise class going on, you're like submerged in a way. And it just, for me, it was also a great place to cry, because when you cry, in the pool, nobody can tell that you're crying because you're just wet. So it was a great place to cry and to get all that frustration out. So, oh yeah, I got a little water up my nose, and it was like the perfect excuse. It was the perfect way to hide the tears. So that was kind of a good thing too. And I met a lot of really nice people swimming. So it was just a great experience, and I just loved it. And it felt so good to feel the water on my body. And just to feel like as you're pulling through the water with your arms and your hands, it just made me feel strong. So I really loved it. I haven't swam in a long time. I really should get back into it, but yeah. I really enjoyed it. And I found it to be very peaceful, very calming, and it helped me to find a lot of focus.
How about the start of that first triathlon? What was going through your mind at that moment?
Oh, gosh. Oh, that's crazy. I was really nervous. I was really excited, but I was really nervous. I was nervous about the lake swim. I had done it. My friend Lori, who was, riding the bike portion for me, she had a friend who was a member at the little boating club on the lake. So we were able to go out there prior to the triathlon. And so her friend was in the kayak, and Lori swam with me, and we just swam out in the middle of the lake. And I'm like, swimming out there, and I'm like, I'm in the middle of a lake, and I'm like swimming. I'm swimming, and I'm in the middle of the lake. I'm like, this is so awesome. Like, it was so cool. I couldn't even believe how cool it was. So we did that. And they also have some organized lake swims, prior to the triathlon that you can go, and so you can get used to it. So, that was great. So it wasn't like I was nervous that I couldn't swim it. It was more just nerves about, just doing it and just putting myself out there physically to do it. And, I didn't have a swim guide. So I went way off course, when I was swimming, because I didn't have someone to guide me. And so a kayaker finally was like, you're off course, swim back this way. And I was like, okay. So, but I did it, and it was crazy. It was just a crazy time. It was a crazy experience. And I was swimming, and then I was way off, and all these people were like coming at me, swimming towards me, because I was in the wrong lane, so to speak. And so then I had to swim, I had to get back on track, and it was crazy. But I did it, and it was fabulous. When I came out of the water and onto the beach, I was like, oh, thank goodness. It was great. And I was so pumped up. And so then from the beach, you have to go all the way up to where the bikes are. So my husband was my guide. So I hobbled up the hill, and I gave the timer off my ankle and put it on Lori's. And then she took off on the bike. Then I got changed out of my wetsuit, and then I was like anxious because I was waiting. Now I had to do the 5K. So it was really cool, and I think I remembered feeling more excited than anything, because I knew I was probably going to cross the finish line last. I wasn't trying to win anything. To me, I kind of came up with this thought for me, and it was, to attempt is to achieve. Yeah. If you attempt it, you've already achieved something. If you're just going to sit there and wallow in self-pity, forever, there's no fun in that. And I always said there's no FUN in MISERY. There's no fun in misery. So why be miserable? I like to enjoy my life and have fun. So, there were nerves for sure, but I don't even really remember that, because it was just so exciting, and it was just so much fun. And I was like, I did it. So it was really cool.
And then crossing that finish line, it must have been a lot of emotions going on there too. Yeah, it was really wild. And, and it was funny because they would hand out like single roses to the women, wrapped in like those little cellophane wrappers. So I got all like the extra leftovers. So I felt like Miss America. I had this huge like thing of all these little single roses. And, so it was kind of cool. Nice.
So I really enjoyed that. I have a couple of blurry pictures, but, from that, but nothing really.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then once once you found yoga, that was kind of your way to kind of rehabilitate yourself a little bit and to gain a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah. So I just started taking that class at the Y, and there were a lot of things that I was not able to do, like a lot of the poses and stuff. So I just did the best that I could. I was like, well, I can do this thing here that she's teaching, but I can't do that lady's doing over there, and I just said, what, I'm just going to focus on myself, and I'm just going to focus on what my body can do now. And then little by little, I just kind of started building up, and I was like, oh, now this week, I can do this. I couldn't reach my toes last week. This week I can reach my toes. Oh, that's cool. And I didn't really practice at home. And, but I did a lot of like just exercising at home. I would put like an exercise show on and grab a chair and use the chair to help keep me standing. So I used whatever I had around me, and I would use soup cans to do like, bicep curls and, because I didn't have weights and I couldn't really lift a lot. So I would just use items that I found around my house to exercise with.
Wow.
Yeah. And that helped. So, it built up slowly but surely.
Yeah.
So it was good.
And then when you made the transition, I know you worked at a couple yoga studios, but when you finally made the leap to get your own studio, that must have been a whole different level of nervousness there.
Oh, you don't even know. So, it was really nerve-wracking because the place I was teaching at predominantly had lost the lease just on their yoga space. They were able to keep the rest of their space. It was a chiropractic center. So, and I had been teaching there for 3 years, and I loved it. And I loved the chiropractor. Dr. Jackie was awesome. And so I had these clients, and I had nowhere to teach. And I knew if I went to another yoga studio, I would have to, my clients would try to have to fit into that schedule. And I knew I wouldn't be able to probably keep the classes at the same times. So I said to my husband, I guess I'm opening a yoga studio.
Yeah, I remember swinging by on the
grand opening. Yeah, I know.
And it was just such a cool thing. As we met through the Chamber of Commerce, we were going to a meeting one morning.
It was very serendipitous.
Yeah, and we had no idea that the meeting was in a completely different location, in a completely different town.
Exactly.
So I kind of was like, well, we both want to go to this meeting. How about I give you a ride over there? And that's kind of like the first time.
Can I say what I said to you?
Sure.
Because they told the woman that was there to introduce us and said that you were a hypnotist, and so I was a little nervous getting in a car with a man I had never met who was a hypnotist, and I said, okay, you can give me a ride as long as you don't hypnotize me and make me do like squawk like a chicken or something. So that's how we met, and it was really funny, and it's great because we've stayed friends. So that's really cool. Yeah,
and like you said, it was completely the way that people just meet is so random sometimes, but like hearing your story as we're driving through towns to get to this meeting that got relocated, and we made it there just before the end of the meeting, but we did make it. I know we did make it. We made it.
And I won a prize that day.
That's too. Right. Yeah. It was
I won that beautiful hair salon, all those beautiful products.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I like this.
Yeah. It's like we should come late more often. We win more stuff that way. But I remember as we're driving, hearing the story, of what you were going through, I was like, oh my God. So when you actually open up the studio, and we're recording the episode in your studio actually.
Right.
And it was just such to be able to show up and to see you grand opening, from where you were, 23 months in a coma to now here you are.
Days.
Huh?
23 days.
23. How many did I say?
You said 23 months.
Oh, geez.
No, not that long. 23 days.
Oh my God, no. Jeez. 23 days in the coma. And I was trying to think of, was it 23 days? Was it 1 month? What am I going to say?
Right.
And I just said them both together. So.
That's okay.
But yeah, to be able to show up and see how far you come, it was just everybody was in such an amazing moment, the people that were coming in.
Yeah.
You had a great setup, and it was just so awesome to see. What takes away, if I have a bad day, it's oh man, this stinks today, or if my back's a little tight today or whatever, and it's seeing people like you that are all right, listen, Tanya's absolutely killing it, she's not letting everything that happened with her is not getting her down, so I need to pick up my game a little bit,
right?
And I think it's great to have met people like you. Everybody should meet somebody like you, because like if you're having that bad day, like here's that person that could have, should have, and probably would have given up.
Right.
You know, so to just be able to see somebody that can overcome so many things, like, you know, like you said, trying to, you know, to swim in a pool when you only have one side, you know?
Yeah. It's not easy.
Yeah. So like,
it's a little depressing when you're swimming in a circle like a shark.
Yeah.
You know? You're like, oh man, this is not fun.
Yeah.
But
it's great to have that inspiration. And, you know, whether it's, you know, somebody playing baseball or softball, perhaps maybe they get an injury, maybe in something like a sprained ankle, they have to take a couple weeks off, you know, to a kid, you know, that it's, you know, it stinks for them. Like all their buddies are out there. They're all having fun. And playing the game, and they have to sit on the sideline, you know, to be able to like, you know what? I heard somebody that overcame something way worse than that. You know, I bet I can do this. You know, I can come back even better. I can come back even stronger. You know, maybe I can find different ways. You know, yoga was one of the things that helped her. Maybe I can learn some yoga too. Right. You know.
And there's so many aspects of yoga that there really is truly something for everyone in it. You know, whether you are more into the physical aspects of yoga and not so much the philosophy, which, you know, is a lot of people, and that's fine. You know, you don't have to change your religion to practice yoga. Yoga is not a religious practice whatsoever. Some people lean towards the Buddhist, you know, aspects of it, which is great. And, you know, but there's so many different veins of yoga that it's incredible. So there really is something for everyone. I was just talking with a friend I haven't seen in years, and she's now practicing Kundalini yoga, and she's getting her certification in it. And so we were talking about it, and I'm like, I'd love to learn about that. You know, so there's like a million different avenues you can go down with yoga, and you can make it just a physical practice. You can make it a very deep psychological or emotional practice. You know, you can combine all of that together. So there's really something for everyone, whether you're an athlete or whether you're just, you know, an older person. And I don't even want to say age groups because I don't want, you know, but I have people that come to me 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. You know, I have a couple 80-year-olds, but you know, it's really available for any age. And you just listen to your body, and you can do what your body will allow you to do that day. You know, there's days when I have plenty of aches and pains, and then I'm like, and then I get on the mat and I stretch, and I just, you know, I may still have some pain, but it's less, you know, and I just feel so much better just for doing it, you know, and just for moving my body in whatever way, shape, or form it allows me to move that day, you know. And I do things now that, you know, in yoga that I never thought I'd be able to do. And I would see other people do it and be like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. I'll never be able to do that though. And now I'm doing them, but I'm doing them in the way that my body allows me to do it. So maybe it's not as graceful as someone I see doing it, but it's what my body allows me to do. And when I get to that point, I'm just like so excited that I'm doing it. So, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. A lot of different poses that I just surprise myself. And that's the thing is, you know, you will surprise yourself. I've seen people get so happy when they do something that they never thought they could do, you know, and it doesn't come overnight. It's not something that happens overnight. You know, some people do come in their first class and they're like, oh, I just want to touch my toes. And then by the end of the class, they're sitting there and they go, oh my God, I just want to be able to reach my toes. Oh my God, I'm reaching my toes. So I have actually really seen that happen. And then sometimes it takes a long time, you know, because you don't get tight and, you know, and muscle tightness. You don't get that way overnight. It's months or years of, you know, not being active or, you know, sitting and watching TV, or maybe you had an injury or surgery that just kept you out for like 6 months or 8 months. And now you're like, oh gosh, you know, so start with some chair yoga. If that's while you're in that point of rehabbing, start with some chair yoga and just move other parts of your body. and at least that way you're still getting some movement. You're not just sitting on the couch watching TV all day. Get some movement in, do something, do anything to move your body in a way that it will move.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you mentioned a bunch of times you like to bring the fun aspect. I mean, you have your beginner classes, you have your experience classes, but I mean, I can see a flyer across the way for rock and roll yoga. You got to tell me about that.
Yeah. So it's called Rocket Yoga, and it's a lot of fun. So I decided that, we have a lot of very soft spa music. We have some Indian music that plays, there's so much great music out there for yoga, but, sometimes you want to just kick it up a notch. And so I want people to also have fun when you're doing yoga. It doesn't all have to be like all serious meditation and, I have to just focus. And I have to clear my mind and I have to do this pose perfectly. You have to have a little fun. Life is about fun as well. So I did that rocket class and that's fun. So it's just a nice vinyasa flow to rock music. And I add a couple of fun songs in and, we do like a little fun shake and stuff. And it's just, and you laugh and you have fun and you're with your best friends or, your new best friends or just the group of women that are there, women and men that are there. And you just have a good time. You just kind of let loose anything that's been bothering you and just kind of let go of it and just enjoy yourself and just take an hour and 15 minutes to just have some fun. Life is very stressful and, you have to have some fun and you have to have an outlet for it. And I can't think of a better way to do that than through yoga. Not everybody wants to go to a gym and pump weights or get on a treadmill. Not everybody can do that. So I think yoga is a great thing for people to practice if they're not into the whole gym scene, Or even if they are into that, it's a great way to just step away from that and to just relax and release and to stretch your body. You can't just build and lift weights and strengthen all the time. You can't do that. Your body can't put up with it, over an extended period of time. So you have to also have that downtime, that stretching, the elongating of your muscles and lengthening them. And you have to make whatever you're doing for your body, you have to make it well-rounded, So I like to bring those fun things in. So we've done the rocket yoga. We've had aromatherapy yoga, which is amazing because we have all those beautiful essential oils. And then I even do a yoga burlesque class, which is a scream. It's so much fun. And I do it to traditional burlesque music. And we have fun. We have the lights going, all the like disco lights kind of stuff. And it's a scream. It's a real hoot and howl. So I don't want to give it all away to what goes on. I mean, we keep our clothes on, I'll tell you that. Yeah. But it's just fun. Yeah. We have a good time and it's just all in fun. And it's just time to get out and just have a great time. We did a cello class earlier this year, which was fabulous. I teamed up with the Waterbury Symphony Orchestra. And so we had one of their first cellist came in. She was absolutely amazing. And we did a class to live cello music, and it was just so soothing and so cathartic. And we're going to be doing, hopefully maybe in the fall, we're going to be doing either the cello class again, or we're going to do a class with violinist. So that's just, if you've never done yoga to live music, it's really something to experience. It's palpable, feeling the vibration of the music within your body. So I, and it's great for the community. It's great for the Waterbury Symphony Orchestra. It's a different outlet for them, for their musicians as well, to try something new and to step out of their norm, to come and play at a yoga studio and just to see people flow to the music that they're playing. I mean, that's got to be an amazing thing for the musician as well.
Yeah, so. I can imagine them being on stage, with the lights on. Generally, you only see the first couple of rows in front of you. Right. But, here in the studio in this really small setting, they can see everybody exactly how they're how they're reacting to the notes that they're playing. That must be something pretty cool. Yeah, it's a really moving experience. So hopefully we're going to bring that back in the fall. Nice. Yeah. Now, if there's somebody out there that's listening that's doesn't necessarily have to be through a car accident, but is going through some type of injury. I think when you get injured, there's a lot of people that kind of feel down about it. And I think to a certain point that's acceptable. But, you know, I mean, if something bad happens, it's okay to feel a little down. But there's a certain area where you, more than anybody, just like took charge and you're like, it's okay that I can feel bad for that moment, but I'm not going to let that moment carry on.
And that was something I had done, and I had been written up in the local paper when I did this sprint triathlon.
I have that. Yeah, I have that.
Yeah. And so Mark Jaffe from the Waterbury wrote an amazing article. He made me look so beautiful and so wonderful. I'm like, oh, thanks, Mark, for making me look so good. But then he had also reached out to his friend John Holt, who was at that time working at Channel 3 News. He was doing the local sports. So John contacted me, and he followed me around for a summer, my husband and I, because Rick and I were doing a ton of 5Ks, and I was also involved with the Gaylord Sports Association at the time. So John followed us around that summer to like a bunch of 5Ks and the Griskus Triathlon that year. He did a beautiful 8.5-minute story for us about my husband and I on the news. And it was really wonderful. And I had said something to him just in conversation. And I had said, you know, you can have a pity party. Everybody's entitled to a pity party. But here's the thing. When you get an invitation to a party, it says start time 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. So you have to have a start time and you have to have an end time for your pity party. You're welcome to have a pity party. You're so welcome to. You know, it's okay to grieve for what you've lost, but you can't live there. You can't live in a pity party. There's no fun in that. So have your pity party, have your start time, have your end time. And then when the end time comes, that's it. You get up off the couch or whatever, and you continue on with your life. And you just say, all right, I had my pity party. I cried my tears. I vented. I got some frustrations out. I punched the pillow 20 times. But now it's time for me to move forward. And that's what you have to do. It's okay to have a pity party. It's totally okay to grieve for what you've been through. But you have to move on. You can't stay there.
Yeah. And, you know, taking that action and always taking that step forward is what separates the people that kind of just give up and fade away. And unfortunately for some people, maybe even rot away, you know?
Right.
But, you know, to always like, you know what? Got to take a step forward. Got to keep moving forward. Yeah.
Yep. And I think that's, you know, it's so important to just keep going, because you never know what's coming around the corner. You know, if someone had told me, even when I was younger, like even way before my accident, that I would be teaching yoga, I always say this. I said, I would have been lying on the floor, holding my gut, laughing and crying hysterically, like being like, you're out of your mind. I was never athletic when I was young. I played basketball and softball when I was in middle school, and I was horrible. And I was really bad at sports, and I was never very coordinated. But, you know, I loved doing the triathlon. It was, you know, it was a great thing, and I loved doing the yoga. And it just, you know, that's what worked for me. You know, it worked for me and I loved it. Maybe for some people, like swimming is their thing, or bicycling, or, you know, if you have issues like where your legs don't function properly, you can use a hand bike, and it's set up like a recumbent bike, and you pedal with your hands. You know, so there's always something out there, I think, that you can find to do. And I think a good thing too is to check with like your local rehabilitative hospital. You know, for us, it's Gaylord here in this area. So they have the sports association, they have all the equipment, they get grants for this, they get donations for this. So like they have so many things. I learned kayaking through them. I did archery with them. You know, the list goes on and on. They have golf and tennis, and the list is endless. You know, they have so many things available. So reach out to these resources and use them. You know, one of the other things I found was Library for the Blind and Physically Disabled. And you know how I found that was when we still actually had a landline. I'm probably dating myself, but we had a landline. And I just started calling the 411 and saying, hi, I'm wondering if you can help me. I'm legally blind and physically disabled. And once you ask someone to help you and say, you know, why you need help, I found that they were extremely receptive. And I think it was probably really nice for that operator to be like, oh, I can help someone here. Oh, let me help this person, because usually you just call and you would say the name and the town, and then they're like, okay, here's the number, and then that was the end of it. But this woman actually stopped and took time and found Library for the Blind for me. And it's been like, it's opened a new world to me. So now, like, I get books for free. They give me a player for free. I have my own little librarian there. She's incredible. She knows what I like to read. I mean, it's wonderful. You have to start searching for resources. And now with the internet the way it is, the interweb, you can find, there's so much information out there. So, look in your nearby area, check with your local rehab hospital. If you want to take chair yoga, check with local studios. If you can't find a studio that does it, check with the senior center in your area, because I will pretty much guarantee you they have a chair yoga class. So what, you have to go and be with people that maybe 2 or 3 times or 4 times your age. If you're rehabbing and you need to do it, just go. You never know what you'll learn from them. You may really enjoy it. So, just look for resources in your area, any way, shape, or form that you can find them. Ask people, get out and question, and find things. And they will come to you. If you ask the universe, it will provide. You just have to ask.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about, life is going to go on anyway. Right. Life is going to go on regardless. So you might as well be, in charge of what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah, take control. Take control. Because you'll amaze yourself. And then I read a book. I read a lot of inspirational books after the accident. I read a lot of Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer and several other authors, so many. I read about people who had been injured. James Blake was a famous tennis player from Connecticut, broke his neck playing tennis for fun, ran headlong into the net pole and broke his neck. And I read his story about what he went through and how he recovered. And so I would read stories and books by inspirational people. And it was incredible. And it inspired me to keep going. So I think looking down those avenues and seeing what you can find, because there's a million inspirational stories out there. Maybe some of them will speak to you, maybe some of them won't. And it doesn't have to necessarily be your injury. It's just about overcoming, how to find your way through. I think that's the most difficult thing is, what do I do now? My life has been this, and that for so long. And now all of a sudden it's none of those things. And what the heck do I do now? Where do I go? Where do I turn to? What do I do? And I think, you just have to start, metaphorically knocking on doors and, and ringing up phones and checking with people and seeing the information that you can gather and taking action, to make your life better, different, and working with what you have.
Yeah.
And not worrying about what you've lost.
And it sounds too like another of the key is to take action, but also never be too proud to ask for help.
Oh gosh, no. You can't be too proud to ask for help. I ask for help when I need it. And there are times when someone will say, "Oh, can I do this for you?" I was like, "No, no, I can do it myself. Thank you very much for asking." And I used to get like really irritated. I think we were at like an event or something one time, and it was a family party, and one of the things that comes along with traumatic brain injury is anger. I had a lot of anger issues. And so we were somewhere, and I think it was a family party, and people kept trying to offer me a chair. And I was like, "I don't need a chair. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine." I kind of snapped. But I was just like, when so many people, and I get that they were all trying to be nice and loving and helpful and caring and nurturing, and I get that. But sometimes it's overwhelming. And I used to call my mother and my mother-in-law the hover round moms. Like they would, now the term is helicopter, but I used to call them the hover rounds, because they would just, people would just hover around and like want to do everything for you. But you have to learn to do things by yourself, and you have to learn to do them on your own. Pace yourself. Don't like say, "Oh, well, I'm going to do this." And then, when you physically can't do it and fall on your face and re-injure yourself. But, there has to be a time when you have to start doing things on your own. And so I say, baby step it. One step at a time, day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour. And eventually and inevitably, you'll get to where you want to be. It takes time. And if nothing else, I have learned patience, because I was forced into learning it. I didn't want to be patient. And I'm still like that. I still look at like a yoga pose and I'm like, oh, I want to do that, and I'm not there yet, but I try new things and I'm like, wow, all right, maybe this doesn't look really great, but it's stepping in the right direction.
Awesome.
To following through with that pose. So
that's so cool that, you kind of, from where you started, where you're reading the inspirational stories, and then, somewhere along the way you transitioned into the inspirational story for others. And that's really cool.
Yeah. And I think, really inspiration is really, it's all around you. It's all around you. Everywhere you look, it's there. I'm looking out the window right now and I'm seeing like the leaves starting to bud on the trees. I'm like, oh, I'm seeing green. I'm like, to me, that's inspirational. One of the inspirational stories I saw was a young boy. It was on the Today Show, and it was a young boy who was born with his legs were deformed and he couldn't really walk. So they had him on the show, and then they did a follow-up with him like a year later. And basically, he made the decision. The parents and the doctors let him make the decision. And he chose to have his legs amputated so that he could be fitted with prosthetics so that he could walk and run like the other kids. And they had him back, and he was on his little blades, like the curved blades. And he was running around the stage, and he was like a little boy. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that kid, I can't even remember his name, but he inspired me like unbelievably. I was like, if that little kid can make that decision himself to have both of his legs amputated so that he could live a normal life, then how can I just sit here and say, oh, my life stinks and I can't do this, that, and the other thing? So that was inspiring to me. So it's really all around you. You just really have to open up your eyes and see it.
Yeah, 100%. Because like you said, like you never know, inspiration's all around you. You never know where it is. Mm-hmm. And like I said, back to when we met at that morning at that meeting, like it was kind of a gray, kind of a miserable day.
Kind of like it is today.
Yeah, kind of like how it is today.
Yeah.
But it was so easy at that moment to like, I'm just gonna go back home, go to bed. But like here, I see you. Like you came, you took the bus to get there. You got you're walking with your cane. You got your yoga mat strapped around your back.
Yeah.
I was like, she's not ready to give up on this day. I'm not ready. Let's go. Like, where's this? What's the address? All right, come on, let's go.
I know, and it was great, and it was nice to meet everybody. That was my first meeting, so it was really nice to talk with people there and meet some people there, and that was a wonderful group of people. So I'm still like on social media with several of the people there, and it's nice to see what they're doing and where their business is going, and it was a great support system because we all, you're all supporting each other in your businesses. And it's just nice to know that we're all out there and we're all working and we're all just trying to make a living, and we're all just trying to, take the best thing that we do and provide it out there for people to come and enjoy it or to utilize it, whatever the case may be. So, it's just, you just never know who you're going to meet, who's going to inspire you, who's going to, have an opportunity for you somewhere down the road.
So if there's like some kids in high school, if you had a room, or let's say, I just say a room full of people, right. If you had a yoga studio full of high school kids, what would be that one message that like you need to listen to this and take this with you for the rest of your life?
Well, I guess I would have to say, high school's difficult. I remember high school, and, it wasn't always easy for me, and it's not always easy for kids in high school. It's a crazy world we're growing up in. Every older generation says that about the next generation. It's a crazy world for them to grow up in. But I would honestly just say, focus on yourself and, just try to. High school is a time of experience. We're trying new things, we're learning new things, we're pressing boundaries, we're trying to see where we can reach out, where we can press, and where that boundary is, where do I have to draw back, where do I get to expand? So I would say just kind of, test those areas within yourself, and like test your physical abilities, see where that takes you, and just, don't focus so much on the like the negativity that goes on around you. Focus on the positive aspects Focus on the people that you're close with, your friends that you're close with. But always remember, too, to make your own decisions. This is your life. It's not somebody else's life. And if somebody is, doing something over there, it doesn't mean that you have to do it, too. So focus on what your goals are and maybe set goals that are attainable. We always have goals and sometimes we make them a little too lofty and they're hard to reach and we set ourselves up for failure. So make small goals and reach them and then set the bar a little higher, and then take the next step. I think it's all about taking steps. One step leads to the next, to the next. You don't have to go from step 1 to 1,000 like immediately. You have to work your way there.
Yeah.
And I think just getting up every day, opening your eyes when you wake up, and just say, this is going to be a positive day and I'm going to do the best that I can today. And, if I have a test coming up, study. I was average in high school. I was an average student. And looking back, oh my gosh, I wish I had studied more and I wish I'd put a little more effort into it. So I would say, do the best that you can, get the good grades, do what you can, and focus on where you are, but where you want to go. So if college is your goal and getting a scholarship for a sport is your goal, focus on that. But, find a love of it as well. You have to love what you're doing. And we hear people say that. A lot of successful people will say, you have to love what you're doing. And I think it's a huge help if you do. If you love it, you're going to do amazing things, and whether you love numbers and accounting or whether you love baseball or football or tennis or golf, whatever it is that you love, follow that path and see where it takes you. You may find that it may change over time, but that's okay. It's okay to shift gears. It's okay to take a different road, but just do it because your heart feels that's the way to do it. And
Absolutely.
just attempt different things and try new things and just see where it takes you and just learn and listen to teachers, listen to coaches, because they, listen to your parents. A lot of times we look at these people and we roll our eyes, but they really do have your best interest at heart. And they've been there and done that. And I know sometimes as a teenager, you're like, they don't know what they're talking about. And I know because I was there and I said those things. So I totally get it. But it is true to a point, you always know what's best for yourself, but there are people there that are here to help you and to guide you and take what they say to heart and follow through with it. And I think that you'll be amazed at the results.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Ryan, for having me. It's been really awesome.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I was able to have you on, that you can get your story out because it's so inspirational.
Thank
to
you.
me and to everybody that listens. I know even at the beginning, my eyes were tearing up listening to the story again.
Oh, don't cry. Don't cry. It's all good.
if people want to check you out and get a hold of you, how can they find you?
So the best way is the website, which is rayyogacenter.com. It's all one word, RAYYOGACENTER. And everything that you need to know is on the website. If you have any questions, you can call at 203-215-2988. And you can also email, which is rayyogacenter@gmail.com.
Cool.
It's a great place. We're a small little studio, but a lot of people I'm finding are saying that they really like that as opposed to the big giant studios with like 30 or 50 people in a class. They like that small, intimate setting, which gives me a sigh of relief because I'm like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
They like the small studio. So, just reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions or do what I can to help.
Awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ryan.
All right. That was my interview with Tanya Sage. And wow, honestly, listening to her story, I was fighting back tears a couple times. I've been in a new box of tissues here, but just an inspiring person to be able to be in such an unfortunate position, 23 days of her life completely gone. Still legally blind. I know every time when I see her, I have to get up, good and close, and she recognizes it's me. But to be able to just be around somebody that's gone through so much inspires at least me to do more with what I have, and I hope that's what you guys took out of it as well. That whether you're going through an unfortunate injury that is taken away from your time during the game, or perhaps maybe there's some other rough patch that you're going through in life, to be able to see somebody that has had it a lot worse potentially than me and than others, to be able to just fight through, to enjoy the journey, to have fun, and to succeed, and that's what it's all about. Like I said, listening to her story makes me, every time I see her, makes me want to do better, be a better person, do better at helping people, at listening to people, and all around. It just, it just inspires you. And I hope that you guys can listen to this, can take that, the journey that she's been on, and really examine your own life and see, where in my life, where in my game, where can I improve? Where can I do better? Because if there's this person out there that has so much stacked against her, and yet she can do amazing things, then what else can I do to accomplish? And the sky's really the limit, So thanks again, guys, for listening, I should say. Still a little emotional after all that. Thanks so much for listening. Like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast. If this interview helped you or inspired you at all, leave a review on iTunes. That's for podcasters. To rate the show, to leave a review is really the best compliment that you can give us. So I definitely appreciate that. And, connect with Tanya, follow her on social media, check out her website. She's truly an inspiration to everybody. So thanks again so much for listening. I'll see you guys on the next episode. And as you know, it's time to kick it over to the Zambonis. We'll see you next time.